Welcome to Mornings with Michael. Small Business Saturday Leaders welcomes Karlon Johnson. Karlon has been the managing director for Norquay Capital since 2019. From 2016 to 2019, Karlon was a management consultant. Most impressive of all was his 8.5 years in the Air Force. He served in Alaska and Grand Forks, North Dakota.
Yeah.
Anyone who served in North Dakota will catch my attention. In fact, I was just there for a wedding last week. In addition to his education in the Air Force, Karlon received a BA degree from the University of Maryland for political science and government. Without further ado, let's welcome Karlon to the show. Hello, Karlon. How are you doing?
Hey, doing well. Thanks. Happy to join you, Mike. Um, yeah. I really appreciate having you have me on your show. Um, wanted to wanted to after I met you, I thought you were intriguing, so I thought, hey, it'd be a nice addition. So we'll go from there. But yeah, those are pretty much correct. Um, I've worked with a number of international banks, such as HSBC, in the past, and also currently working with a multi-family private office, and my company now, Norquay Capital, which I think is a intriguing and an interesting investment firm. We're closing on a couple deals as we speak today. So we're excited about what we're doing across the United States, in the Bay Area, where where we're centrally located. I'm out in Palo Alto, California, and really excited about expanding, and happy to share as much any questions that you have, or right off the bat, or anything kind of yeah.
So, well, why don't we just look into your Air Force career? Explain how you got into that, what you focused on when you were there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So going, just primarily looking at my background. I was born in Cleveland, Ohio. Um, uh, Went to school in Shaker Heights, Ohio, suburb of Cleveland, Ohio. Decided to join about 2 weeks out of high school. The United States Air Force. Was in data analysis, while I was in for 8.5 years. Was stationed, in Grand Forks, North Dakota. Very cold location. It definitely a location I wasn't expecting to go to first off for my first duty station. But nonetheless, it was a great location. I actually got to meet the mayor of Grand Forks.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, I was coined as a highest rated airman on the base for one of the years I was there. And I was there for 4 years, and then I decided to go to Anchorage, Alaska. Well, got stationed there. It's a temporary duty assignment change where you get to choose uh, which location you'd like to go to or prefer to go to, and if they have openings, you get that availability. So instead of going to Japan, as some of my friends were going, I decided to go to Alaska, and it proved to be one of the best decisions I had ever made in my life. One, because Alaska is a beautiful state, and two, I got to see a different side of the world, and definitely got to see the last frontier for all its greatness. And then I deployed twice. I was in Qatar, in Kuwait, both with the Air Force, and then I decided to get out of the Air Force, um, and decided to go into finance. I had finished up my political science degree and gotten some special education from some mentors while I was in the service within finance, and then decided to go to San Francisco. Moved to San Francisco, right down on Wall Street West. Um, I was right off of Kearny Street. Wasn't the greatest place to live in, but I've had some run-ins with some not so great characters down there. But nonetheless, it was where I got my first start, and kind of I would call it the rat hole of San Francisco. But it was in FIDI, and I had access to getting started my financial career and with a technology focus. I had a mentor that told me to primarily focus on the Bay Area, and then from there, I had a mentor who was actually one of my clients. I was helping him out.
Oh, wow.
He's at a multifamily um, office, and he mentioned to me, he said, "Hey, why are you at the bank? You know, what are you really after? I mean, it seems like you're destined for so much more." I said, "Honestly, sir," he was an Irish guy. He had some Irish charm. And I said, honestly, sir, I'm looking for a mentor like you. Well, someone that can really give, and I'm really just getting experience and exposure here at the bank. He was like, "Oh, really?" He was like, "Okay, well, I saw what you've done with my account, and he was a one of the high net worth individuals I had been monitoring for a while at the bank, and he said, hey, let's go for coffee." So I met him for coffee, got to meet a couple other partners, and he said, what would you think about leaving leaving the bank?" I said, "Oh, well, it'd have to be the right, right offer for me. It'd have to be a really good situation." And he said, "Well, if you're looking for a mentor, I was 40 years at a prestigious law firm, and also I can introduce you to the world to the family office world." And I said, "Okay, that sounds like a great opportunity," and gave me an offer I couldn't refuse. So I ended up leaving HSBC and then going to work for this client. And that's really when I got the blueprint for what I'm doing now with my investment group. Taught me the ins and outs, got me to meet several family office partners, got me to build up a repertoire of capital providers, distributing capital all across the world. Got to travel to Paris, to Wyoming, across the UK. It was really a great experience. And then what we're doing now at Norquay, we're an investment group comprised of 5 individuals, including myself, um, primarily focused on investments in the IT consulting, digital infrastructure, and data center spaces. We chose these spaces, one, because we have a breadth of expertise, one from my data analysis background, but then over 250 years of experience within the board with mergers, acquisitions, finance, and IT. And that's really where the combination of where we're going now, and it really just been we made a first a transaction with a robotic business on a venture deal about a year ago. So put some capital into that out of Eastern Europe and Estonia, and now we're looking at gravitating to some of the much larger transactions. And we look at transactions a little upwards of five, a little less than 10, enterprise value around 25 and above.
So you
And
mentioned the family office. I've heard that term bandied about quite a bit. Maybe you can just explain what is a family office and how do you work with them?
Yeah, no, so family offices are they can be set up a number of different ways. I know the Family Office Club would have a degree on how the many different structures, but primarily they can be set up as single family offices, multi-family offices, or virtual family offices. Um, Family offices are investment vehicles. Pretty much think of them like private equity holdings, investment groups for the family. They can be set up a number of different ways, from GP to LP structures. And they can have a range. And where a single, so I'll talk specifically to a single. So a single family office is one family. Typically, will have a net worth or investable assets upward of 10 million. And then to go in multifamily offices, usually have a combined assets of over 100 million of investable assets. They can be set up in a way where a lawyer a lawyer and an advisor will focus on structuring the fund investments to go into particular asset classes across from real estate, venture capital, and private equity. And there's a number of others. But primarily, that's where a lot of what a family office is. It's really a private investment firm really set up by the family to distribute their assets and really continue to grow their generational wealth. So that's primarily when I've worked with the family offices I've worked with out in Palo Alto and Menlo and across New York. That's primarily been their focus. Some on the venture side, some on the private equity side. But I actually met the other day Metallica's family office advisor, the lead for Metallica and some of their
Oh,
investments.
wow.
And so it can be set up in a number of different ways. It can be groups. They can say a group of groups. It can be set up as a funds of funds. There's really a number of different structures it can be set up as. You can be set up as a family because it's really depends on the risk profile of the families that are involved, the amount of wealth they're interested in investing. It could depend. Some last week I met with some private credit strategy specialists where they take family office funds and put it through private credit strategies looking to gain a particular IRR for their families and have and it could range from the 2 and 20 model within the private equity space or the fund space. So the whole gamut. Family offices are unique in a way that they can be structured in a private way. A lot of the family offices we worked with were structured in Wyoming. Wyoming has a particular law that protects assets and trusts. One of the things I learned from my mentor is that when you're protecting and primarily for family offices asset preservation and capital preservation, with considerable growth and to beating inflation, as well as depending on the risk appetite of the family. So when we come in to do deals with a multifamily office, we primarily would be looking at transactions that would fit a particular family office partner within one of the families that say, maybe has a hot and heavy um, idea or a strategy that they really want to get into for the family. They say they want to invest in robotics, say they want to invest in real estate strategies that might drive it, or it might be advisor driven, where the advisors is let their client know these are the kind of returns they can expect, or it's also a diversified group within their entire portfolio. So it's really the entire gamut. There's really no fixed model as it relates to family offices. And what makes it great is that it can be structured in a number of different ways, and it's private capital. A lot of the family office world bounces around from family office to family office, and you learn the unique profiles of the clients that you serve.
Awesome. So, mergers and acquisitions, how did you get into that?
Oh, M&A. Well, primarily at the bank. At the bank, you primarily deal with different credit strategies. You have to understand a number of different ways to use credit and use private equity effectively throughout the capital stack. I primarily got into it from a friend that was in the military. He had went to Penn, Ivy League school out in Pennsylvania, and he was letting me know about some of the opportunities in finance. And I had a mentor when I was out in school, and we were talking about this a number of different ways. And we were talking about how we could potentially create a search fund or a roll up strategy. And so I decided towards the roll up strategy in a traditional endeavor.
Awesome. And then maybe you can just touch on the succession planning that you guys do.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. So when we do all of our transactions, we like to structure deals where there's a degree of succession planning that will go into it. So I'll give you a typical example. Say an owner is 75 years old. He hasn't sold his company yet, and he's looking for an out. He's not going to transfer it to his kids. What we do is we come in and we say, hey, over the course of the next 7 to 8 to 10 years, we'd like to set up an installment plan for you and your company, taking a considerable equity portion off the table, keeping a little bit of skin in the game for the upside for your company, as well as bringing in liquidity for what you're looking for to go through your next phase of life. So that's a lot of how we'll structure it. And then primarily when we've done deals, we've done from 10 to 15% to 40% through installment plans, and then 40 to 50% through our capital providers. And so what that does is it creates a risk mitigated strategy for our capital providers that we work through. It primarily works in a way where we can kind of balance the needs and the risks, the entirety for everyone involved from the investment side, as well as the sellers of the companies, right? Because the sellers of companies know that they're now getting a new management team to come into the fold, but at the same time, the investors are also knowing that management, depending on how it's structured, but typically we like to have owners stay on. A lot of the major corporate structure staying the same, and where we're just facilitating a buyout where we're transitioning new management in, providing new operational oversight, new expertise, and then new exposure to new markets.
So, what kind of team do you have at Norquay?
Oh yeah, no, we have a fantastic team, world class team. World class team I lead. So we got a lawyer from Shell. Everyone's primarily retired, successful retired. One out of Lloyd's Bank. So Shell Oil lawyer, Shell Oil lawyer, and Lloyd's Bank banker for over 35 years. So and then technologist for over 45 years at Cisco.
Hmm.
And then yeah, we have a 3-star general as well from the United States Air
Oh, wow.
Force. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
that's awesome. How did you meet have the 3-star general?
Primarily off of LinkedIn. So
Oh,
Matt
wow.
got yeah. So LinkedIn has been great. But it's been one of the pathways to finding people. It wasn't the first. This wasn't the first board that we came across. We've been I've been with a number of smaller companies that I've co-founded, but through a number of ways that we were interviewing different candidates for the role of board member, we ran across a 3-star general. We thought that would be helpful for some of the defensive and government contracts, and then we struck up a conversation and struck an agreement on how we can create value for what he's doing forward. A lot of what he's focused on is what at Pentagon related. He actually just told me not too long ago he was headed to Poland. So he's still pretty heavy in with the Department of Defense. But as a board member, we're not taking considerable amounts of his time, just primarily for leadership and oversight. And he has a world class view. And then on the banking side, he's done transactions all over the world and in different international environments. Participated in English law, English lending, and across American lending structures as well, and utilize private equity in a number of ways, significantly to the benefit of the banks and the private equity firms he's worked with. And then the lawyer just worked for Shell Oil. He's primarily been successful at linking the Mississippi between the Canada and all the way to the Gulf of Mexico and Louisiana, doing different legal arrangements for the Shell Oil Company, incentivizing owners, as he says it, across the Mississippi Delta.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Um,
So very comprised, very well seasoned and established board, and we think that's what gives us an advantage going into this market and going forward.
so the Irish gentleman that you mentioned before
Yeah,
that met you at the bank, can you explain,
yeah,
that experience,
yeah.
how that developed? And
Yeah, I mean, you can, success leaves clues, and so I could tell he was a successful individual. I had managed this account for a number of months, and I actually helped him. It was kind of a funny story. I helped him. It was helping him move some money from Guernsey, and he had to pay his rent. He was renting a place out in Woodside. I was getting for I think above 10,000 a month, and he said, "Karlon, I'm in this situation. You're my banker. Um, how am I going to get my funds? How am I going to be able to pay my rent? And I said to him, I said, "Oh, well, no. What I'll do is I'll take the authority vested where I'm at, and I'll discuss this matter with your landlord directly, and let them know that you're an above the bar client, and that this is primarily the institution's fault." Now that was going a little bit further than what typical bankers would do, but I took that risk. It was a calculated, strategic risk, but I took that risk, and by doing so, I got the applause of the landlord that he was renting with his family, because he was in between a move, between moving some capital from Guernsey, and she was elated to hear something, of that caliber from banking institutions. She said, "Hey, maybe I'll bring my accounts over, so maybe I can help." You can help lending towards some real estate things. So because she thought it was great customer service, and she thought it was a wonderful. And I said, "Hey, we'll take full control, and spearhead this endeavor."
That's awesome. So we talked a lot about your business. What do you like to do for hobbies? Just get away and recharge your
Well,
batteries.
well, for me, a lot of times I like to. I do a lot of reading. A lot of times I do a lot of reading. I'm a very analytical person. I golf, run, and walk. I primarily I don't really watch sports so much. Don't really, um, per se, play competitive sports. If anything, I spend a lot of time by myself, doing a lot of reading, and then and golf, and then if it's socializing, yeah, it's gonna be golf. But and then I like to, also, I'm a big fan of classical music. I actually have three ranges of music I'll share, from classical to jazz, to hip hop. I think that's my entirety of my personality. Hip hop for my energy, jazz for when I'm feeling, jivey, and classical when I'm really doing some deeper thinking. And I really, if I have some deeper numbers to think about. It really depends on the mood and what I'm trying to do. But yeah, some jazz samba is the first thing in my playlist right now. So I guess I'm feeling jivey.
Well, thanks so much for joining us today. If somebody wanted to
Yeah,
get in
absolutely.
contact with you, well, what's a good way to get in contact with you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. If you ever wanted to contact us, we're open. We're as it says on our website, norquaycapital.com. That's the best way to reach us. We field a number of inquiries through our emails, and so we'll look to get back to you as quick as we can, if it makes sense to intervene. But yeah, that's the best way to get in contact with us. And Mark, thank you for the opportunity to get on your show, and it was wonderful meeting you. I thought you were a inspiring individual as well, and I want to definitely give you a shout out as well.
Well, awesome. Thanks so much, and